What's up guys, it's Lee and welcome back to another video. Now I'm really excited about this video because what I've done is I've put together a list of gear that I believe is going to be the best gear for you in 2025. Now basically the way that I came up with this idea for this video is I looked at all of the gear that I've used in the past year and I thought about what served me well and what did not, and I put together this list and I'm really excited to share it with you, and hopefully you can actually take a few of these items from this list and kind of weave that into your YouTube algorithm in terms of the gear that you're using, and I'm just really excited to share. So without further ado, let's just kind of get into the video. So with the very first piece of gear that I'm going to talk about, this piece of gear is really the piece of gear that everything else in a lot of ways is going to revolve around. Now you don't have to get this piece of gear that I'm talking about, and it probably is, yeah, it definitely is the most expensive piece of gear on the list, but it's something that I think if you get, it's going to serve you well. And so if you haven't guessed it, it is the camera that you're going to use. Now, the camera that has worked really well for me this past year is the Sony FX30. Now, if you know anything about the Sony FX30, it essentially has the same body as the FX3, like the same exact body, and it just is packed with so much technology. It's just really going to take your videos to another level. One of the main things I love about this camera is that it comes with a fan. You can shoot in 10-bit 422 color, which is phenomenal. The S-Log3 in this camera is amazing. And one of the things that I really liked about the actual video that comes out of this camera is that it's so sharp and it's so crisp, and it just is kind of something that for me, when I first started using this camera, it really blew me away. This is also an APS-C camera as well, which means it's gonna be less expensive than say the FX3, right? Which of course uses full frame glass, which means you're gonna have more expensive lenses and things like that if that's not something that you already have. So the APS-C lenses that are gonna be able to be used on this camera are gonna be less expensive than the full frame counterparts. So that's one of the main things that I love about this camera. Also, if you need to take any thumbnail photos, this camera can still do that. And I think you're gonna be really pleasantly surprised. This camera has 26 megapixels as well. And although there is no like mechanical shutter, so you can't like do burst in terms of like taking photos, you are gonna be able to, set a timer on here, like take, photos for it. So you can really use this camera for primarily the video aspects of things, right? Because we're here on YouTube, but also if you need to take some photos, you definitely can, and they look amazing because you can take JPEGs, you can shoot RAW, whatever you need to, you can do it with this camera. Now I'm going to come back to this camera in just a minute to talk about a few other things, but let's talk about the next piece of gear that I think is really going to take things to the next level for you this year. All right, so this is the next piece of gear that I think is going to really serve you well in 2025. This is a Rode PodMic. Now, if you know anything about, pod mics or XLR microphones, you know that they sound really, really good because they're designed to be closer to your mouth. And the way that the audio sounds is just phenomenal. And depending on the setup that you have, this could be a really great addition. You can use it on something like this, where it's gonna be sitting on the tabletop in front of you, if that's your vibe. You can also go ahead and put it on a boom arm, if that is also your vibe. You see, I have one back here, and this is my Shure SM7B, but it's on an arm as well. It's on a boom arm on my desk. You can also use that kind of setup if you make a lot of videos, sitting at your desk. So this is going to really, really take your audio to the next level, because one of the main things that we know about video, especially here on YouTube, is that audio is king in a lot of ways. Someone will definitely sit through your, poor visuals, right? But they will not sit through a video that has bad audio, period. They will click away and they will stop watching your video. So in order to combat that, this is a great option if this suits the style of video that you typically shoot. So the next piece of gear is something that might be a little bit unexpected, right? But it's a piece of gear that I feel like has been really useful for me in the past year in very unexpected ways. And that is this SmallRig Magic Arm. It has a super clamp on one end, and it has a quarter, and also comes with a 3/8 adapter thread mount on the other side. And what makes this, kind of interesting piece of gear, something that might actually be really useful for you, is because of the way that it's designed. It's just genius, you know, the way that it's designed. So on one end, you have this super clamp piece, and you can actually use this to clamp, you know, to a bookshelf or something in your room, maybe higher up. And this other side, you can put your camera or maybe a light. So for instance, like this aperture light, you can use it on here just to kind of add a little extra light into your background, just to kind of throw a little color on the wall or whatever you might need to do for your videos. And this could also just help to create different layers of your video in terms of like visually, in terms of the lighting. So you have this lighting, you have, you know, the lighting behind me, which is blue over here, you got the red over here. But if you don't have, you know, a setup like that, you could easily use a camera like this that might have some color settings and use that to throw some light onto the wall. This could also be used as like maybe a hair light if you use this and kind of like rig it up, find something above you to kind of throw a little extra light on you, to also create some separation between yourself and also your background as well. You can use this in so many different ways. You can also take this and put your camera on here and just kind of put your camera in an unexpected sort of position where, or angle where otherwise you would not be able to do it, right? Or you would need someone else to hold the camera for you. And obviously it depends on how heavy your camera is, but it's really, really cool. And by the way, once you put it in the position that you want, all you do is you turn this knob here and it just stays that way. So you can position it any way you want and then tighten it up. And so this has been really great for me this year. Typically what I've found myself using it for is I've used it as a hair light for most of the year, and it's worked really well because I have a C-stand up here and I just clamp it on that and I throw some light to help, again, create separation between myself and the background. So this could be another great piece of gear that you haven't even really thought about. So the next piece of gear I want to talk to you guys about is lighting. As we know, lighting is very, very important to light your scene and make you look good on camera. And without it, your videos can be very drab and very flat and not that interesting. And then of course, if you are someone that typically uses natural light to make your videos, then you already know some of the disadvantages to doing that, which is typically, you know, clouds, right? You're talking, you're shooting a video, the lighting looks phenomenal, and then a cloud comes, right? Or even worse, a storm comes and it really just grays out the sky and it really just kind of takes down the quality of your video because now your video is a bit darker. You have to keep making adjustments. It's really annoying. And why would you want to do that when you can buy a light? And so the next piece of a gear that I want to tell you guys about is going to be the Moleus G60 light by a company named Zhiyun. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but I've been using this light for the past year and it has really served me well. One of the main things that I like about this light is that it's so small and compact, and it just packs a lot of power in such a small body. It also comes with an adapter that allows for bones mount, so I can use that by pairing that with a softbox in order to throw some nice diffused light on myself, which looks good. You have the option of just buying the light itself if you already have other, you know, diffusers or softboxes. It also comes with a combo kit as well, which already comes with a softbox as well, but the softbox is a bit smaller, so you might want to still, again, buy a larger softbox for yourself, but it is a great option. And one of the main reasons why I really like this light in comparison to the Godox SL60W is because of the fan noise. The fan noise on the Moleus is very, very minimal. I really do not hear it while I'm recording versus when I used to use the Godox light all the time. That was just something that I always kind of heard in the background and I felt like my camera picked it up. And so if you really want some nice, clean, you know, audio without a fan, then I would definitely suggest this light as well because it does the same thing and it also works great. One of the other advantages too versus the Godox is that it also comes with an app and you can actually control the brightness of the light from the app as well, which again is just a nice feature to have, especially if you don't want to have to keep getting up and fiddling with your light and trying to get everything to look perfect in camera. Now you can just use the app and you can stay seated while you do that. So that's another great advantage to this light as well. Highly recommended. All right, so this next piece of gear is gonna be really great for those of you guys who like to film outdoors, right? So if part of your channel is kind of, you know, basically recording in different scenes, right? To keep your videos interesting, to keep your viewer, you know, really dialed into your video, then you're gonna find yourself shooting outside a lot. And one of the downsides to shooting outside is that on a nice, beautiful, bright, sunny day, you're gonna introduce a lot of light into your camera, and it can also make things pretty difficult in order for you to get some really nice visuals for your videos. And maybe you found yourself having to go out and purchase some ND filters to kind of cut the light a little bit to, you know, keep your shutter speed the same and not have to fiddle with things too much. But again, as we know, light changes when you're outdoors. You don't have that control that you have when you're in a studio environment or an indoor environment where you have full control over the light. And so that kind of leads you to that path where you might be like, okay, instead of just an ND filter, maybe I need a variable ND filter, and then you go out and buy one. And then the next thing that happens is when you want to use another lens, you find yourself having to go out and buy another variable ND to fit that new lens that you have. And that can be super annoying. And in order to avoid all of that, what I've done is I've gone out and I've purchased a variable ND system that I feel like is going to basically save me a lot of money down the road. Now, while it is a little bit on the pricier end, admittedly, it's something that I know is gonna prevent me from having to go out and keep purchasing ND filters, you know, throughout the years. And so I went out and I got the Freewell K2 system. And you know, what I really like about this is that, again, it really is going to allow you the flexibility to basically use, you know, these rings that you can actually apply to whatever camera lens that you have. And then they have this magnetic system that basically goes on the front of that. So depending on the different lens that you're using, all you have to do is make sure that these rings are on the lenses that you own. And then if you're ready to switch your lens out, all you have to do is take this off of one lens and put this on another lens, and boom, that's it. You know, you don't have to worry about complicating your life buying multiple ND filters to fit all of your different lenses. And of course, I know you can go out and buy step-up rings and buy the largest ND filter you can find and do that. And you know, honestly, that might work okay for you. But I honestly feel like this is a better system. It's just gonna be less complicated. And it's just something that is also gonna grow with you as well, because they have other attachments that you can go out and purchase that like graduated filters, and it just is a really beautiful system. So if you don't know a lot about this system, I definitely highly recommend that you check it out. I actually think that I might make a video on this because I feel like it's something that, you know, for me was really a lifesaver, because it wasn't something that I knew a lot about. But I think that for you, this is gonna be really good. Again, if you're somebody who likes to shoot outdoors, likes to use variable ND filters, I think that you're gonna be really happy with this system. So super excited for you guys to try it. If you do already have one, definitely let me know. I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on this system. All right, so earlier we talked a little bit about audio. And so I wanna kind of bring things back to audio just for a quick second in terms of another option that you have available to you for your YouTube videos. This piece of gear is a piece of gear that I feel like is really cool. And it's something that I'm really excited to talk to you guys about. I have shared a video about it. I have a review on it on the channel, so go check it out. But the next piece of gear is the Hollyland Lark M2. And this is a really cool system. As you guys can see, I'm already using it right now. But this is a really cool wireless system, and it just plugs right into your camera and records the audio. The audio sounds great. It's right here. And also it's so small. I mean, look how tiny this is. It's really crazy when you think about it. So with that being said, you have this really small system that comes in this nice little case. So that is also another great addition. And one of the things I like about it is that you can really just move around and you're not like tied to one spot, right? Because if you are using something like this pop mic, for instance, you gotta be like right here in front of the camera. But this really introduces a lot more flexibility into the different types of videos you're gonna make on your channel, because now you can move around. You don't have to be in one place. So highly recommend the Hollyland Lark M2. definitely gonna take your videos to another level. So earlier I mentioned that we're gonna go back to the FX30 because there were some other things I wanted to talk to you guys about. Now, if you haven't noticed, there's a lot going on this camera. This is not what the FX30 looks like typically, right? If you haven't noticed, what I've done is I've put on a small rig cage, right? Highly recommend that you get a small rig cage for this camera. Why? You're like, why do I need a small rig? The reason why I recommend the small rig cage is that it's going to, number one, add additional protection to your camera in case it falls or you knock it on something. It's just gonna add a layer of protection that it doesn't already have, right? That's the first piece. The second piece is, which I think that you're gonna find yourself getting more excited about as you use this camera more, kind of like I did, is basically the ability to really build this camera out and basically make it into the type of camera that is gonna serve you the best way possible, right? So however your use case is, you can do it with this camera. So for instance, one of the things I like about this cage is that it does have an Arca Swiss plate on the bottom. It's kind of built into it. So now if you use this with your tripods, all you have to do is just plunk it right onto your tripod, tighten it up, boom, you're ready to go. You don't have to go and put a plate on here and screw it in and do all of that. You don't have to do that because it's already here. That alone is great, right? So I really like that. It has a clamp here on the side to, basically protect your HDMI port as well, because who wants to worry about damaging your ports on your camera? And then also another accessory that I recommend as well, depending on kind of like the videos that you do, it's just not something that you have to get. But if you're like me and you like to do some B-roll sometimes, I would also recommend the top handle. The top handle I would recommend because it allows you to kind of keep your camera steady as you are getting certain shots. You can get a little low. You can, kind of move the camera around. Sure, you can go ahead and use your hand to do those things. But for me, the top handle really just kind of adds a different element into using this camera. And I feel like I get smoother footage like that way as well. So that's another reason why I recommend this small rig kind of setup. Now, another piece of small rig gear or accessories that I do recommend for this camera, it's not something that you have to get, but it depends on, again, the style of the videos that you're shooting and how long it typically takes you to shoot your videos. If you use a monitor, if you're not plugged in one stationary place where you can power your camera, things like that. Now, another piece of gear that I do recommend is the small rig V-mount battery plate. Now, this little design is something that is going to really help out if you are shooting for long periods of time, if you have monitors and other things that you need to power and you are not kind of like plugged in and set in one stationary place where you can power up your camera and your monitor. This allows you the freedom to move your camera all around your home while you're out and about, and you can power everything and not have to worry about running out of juice, swapping batteries, things like that. This small rig V-mount plate is going to really help you out a lot. And it also pairs well with this cage as well. So you can really just slide it on, essentially, right? And you can tighten it and boom, now you have this V-mount plate on the back of your camera. Now you probably already guessed where this leads, right? This small rig V-mount battery plate, right? You're like, okay, this is great. It's called a V-mount battery plate. Where's the V-mount battery, right? So this takes me to the next piece of gear, and this is the newer 99 watt hour mini V-mount battery. Now this battery is phenomenal because this can last you for a full day of shooting depending on how many devices that you actually attach to your camera. This is going to last you the entire day and you don't have to worry about swapping your camera batteries out and all that kind of stuff. It's very, very useful and it just fits on here really easily. And so as you can see, it fits right on the back of your camera, and this can work really, really well for you if you are shooting for long periods of time. Obviously, you might need like a DTAP battery for your monitor or whatever. You can also use a USB-C cord to power from your V-mount battery to your camera, but it will keep it powered up all day long for you. And then you can move it in and make it nice and compact, just like this. And you can just fold in your monitor just like that. And then when you're shooting, you can just kind of move it out and you can shoot and you can flip it around and view yourself or whatever you need to do. This way you can access the menu and whatever else you need to while you're actually using the camera as well. The next piece of gear that I want to talk to you guys about is something that I feel like has really helped me out a lot in terms of being able to view myself when I'm recording, to use the false color features to make sure that my video is exposed properly, and overall just makes it easier to actually see everything that is in my shot when I'm recording, so I don't have to have some things in the background that I don't want, just to make sure that the framing is right and all those things. And that of course is going to be a monitor. Now the monitor that I recommend is a Freeworld monitor. This is a relatively inexpensive monitor, but it does the job. It has false color on here, and then also it's large enough for you to be able to put it on top of your camera so that while you're recording, you can actually see yourself as well. And so it might look something like this while you're recording. This is a great setup, and this is actually almost like an identical setup to what I currently am using right now to record this video. And then one of the other things, of course, is, like I said earlier, you can just buy a DTAP battery, that goes on the back. It's gonna plug into your mini V-mount battery, plug into the monitor, and then at that point, your V-mount battery is powering your camera and then also the monitor as well, and you're ready to go and record and shoot wherever you want throughout your home, outdoors, wherever you want to go. It's going to be right here, all powered up and ready to go for you. And you're going to have to worry a lot less about the gear, and you'll be able to focus more on the actual content that you're bringing to your audience, the actual video itself that you're making, and the story that you want to tell. And again, focusing a little bit less on all of the gear, because now you have something that is just set up, it's ready to go, and it's easy to use. And I think with a setup like this, you're gonna be well on your way to being able to just sit down and create videos on the fly and just crank out those videos that you are so excited to make. Now, the next piece of gear that I'm going to recommend really just kind of ties together everything we just talked about. It's kind of what your base is going to be for everything we talked about. And that is going to be a tripod. Now, I do recommend this SmallRig tripod. It's very, very light. It's very small and compact, and you can use this to set your camera on, like I said, wherever you want, whether you're out and about or within your home, to get different angles and different shots. It's very stable and it's high quality because it's made by SmallRig as well. Now, that tripod is the final piece of gear that I recommend for YouTube creators in 2025. Now, this tripod is the last piece of gear that I'm going to recommend for YouTube creators in 2025. But like I said, it really just helps to tie everything together in terms of all the gear that we talked about. And I do truly feel like if you're able to take elements from this list that I just talked to you guys about, and you kind of piece together your own kit that works well for you and your YouTube channel, I think that you're going to have a phenomenal year when it comes down to content creation, and I think you're gonna have a blast. Now, if you found value in this video and you liked it, definitely hit the like button. Also, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button for me. Well, I mean, like, you're watching this video until this point, you might as well go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I appreciate you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.